Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Illumination. Valerie and I are beyond excited today for our guest, our first guest actually on our new podcast. And today we have with us Tobe London. And I think all of you know at this point that Valerie is a spiritual healer and she is also a rescue mediumship, which means that she works with people who have ghost activity in their home. She helps those ghosts to be on their way. And Tobe is one of her clients that she recently worked with. And just a little bit about Tobe before we get started. He was he was a heavy equipment contractor and operator. He was a Marine. He is a musician, and we are going to give the link to his music. He played the drums and piano. He's also a master trainer for robotics. So he comes with so much history and experience. And so we are very excited and honored to have you join us here today, Tobe. So thank you. I'm going to hand over the mic to the two of you and let you go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm really excited to do this episode today because I think that hauntings or ghosts always come with a lot of questions and different experiences. And I feel like, in the realm of this work, this was a very interesting case because Tobe actually experienced an apparition, and it's just not common. It takes a tremendous amount of energy for a conscious being that's not alive to actually show a physical form in some way. And so it was just a really fascinating story. But yeah, he gave me a call last weekend and we started chit-chatting. He had a video and all sorts of stuff that happened. And so Tobe, if you want to share a little bit about what happened, I'm sure everybody is very interested in hearing what happened to you and your wife.
Well, sure.
Actually.
Yeah, well, sure. So I guess to kind of preface everything is to say that, I've got a terminal illness at this point in my life. And I had been sitting in my truck in the driveway talking to a friend when my wife arrived home. She likes to, get my memories and those kinds of things put down on video. I think she has the idea that she's going to tell a little bit of a story, maybe write a story, hopefully, is what she's hoping for, about my past and history, because it's pretty colorful. Long story short, though, she was videotaping my dialogue and caught the apparition on her phone. And I was able to extract a few of those images, and it's the same person with different head angles, so forth. And at first I thought, well, you know what? I think this might be an intruder, because we've had one other intruder in our town that came to our house. So I jumped out of the truck, and of course there was nothing there. No tracks. We still had no snow melt on the north side. So there was nothing there that was obvious, but I think the pictures show it clear.
Yeah, it definitely did. I was able to look at those images and I was like, yeah, that's really wild. It looks like a person is standing there.
Yeah. My question is, it didn't seem malevolent. And has it just decided it wants to stay here, or what are we looking at in that regard?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of reasons why spirit doesn't cross over, or the different types of conscious beings that could be walking this earth, and in this particular case, this man had passed on and his spirit felt a little confused. So there's what I've noticed in my work over time was there's some reasons why spirits might not cross over. Confusion, abrupt death, just like completely like dead, and then all of a sudden there's like, what is happening to me? Or unfinished business, messages. They feel responsible for certain family members. They want to protect family or friends in certain ways. There's just a lot of reasons why, or, you know, let's say somebody is here for a specific like lesson they're meant to learn, and they kind of crossed before they got to complete that, and they just are wanting to complete something energetically within them before they cross. So there's just a lot of different reasons why a spirit may stay here rather than cross over right away. But again, there's just no time in spirit, and so a being be here, for us it feels sad, like, oh my gosh, this ghost has been here for 300 years, and it's like a blink of an eye in that experience. It's just when they're ready to go, they'll go. So
Right.
so you ended up calling the police, right? To come and like looking on your property. I mean, that's wild, right? I mean, when you see something so clearly, that can be a really wild experience. I think some other stuff was going on at the same time in your home. You had sent some pictures that like Ursula had gotten scratches on her, and there was stuff on your car and all sorts of stuff. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we're not sure about the scratches on her arm because, of course, we have 3 cats, but she can't remember anything. They just showed up the next day. Now, on my truck itself, there was a forefinger kind of brushed against it with claw marks that went through the clear coat of my truck. And I've been saving for and wanting that particular truck all my life, so I notice if something's goofy. I mean, it's a funny thing, but it was kind of nice to finally get to a point where I could get the one that I wanted. And I noticed stuff. So the next, that first morning before that, I was considering going ahead and washing the truck. I decided against it, and then when this night happened, the next day there was 4 fingerprints and claw marks on the side of the truck.
Yeah. Wow. That's just wild. Go ahead, Susan.
I'll be the question asker for the 2 of you. So Tobe, because you can imagine, right? We have listeners, we'll have a bunch of listeners, and some will be like, oh, come on, really, a ghost, you guys? And then others are going to say, oh my God, I've had a ghost in my own house, and everyone in between. So can we just back up a little bit? I want to slow the story down just a little bit. That before your wife captured this entity on a phone, did you guys feel activity? Were there these things happening prior to the scratches on your truck? Were there things going on that confused you before you were able to capture this?
Not, I wouldn't say per se, although I did see an intruder months and months ago, and the police came out for that one too. And I saw that from inside the house. Pretty normal kind of looking guy with a hoodie on. So I can't attribute that to this particular occurrence. But what I will say is the north side of our property is all woods, and I can give you guys the pictures of the way our layout is on our property. It's woods for maybe 1.5 acres, and I've never felt comfortable with that area at all. And I've had lots of musician friends that are, empaths and those kinds of things. And one lady definitely said, well, there's something funny over here. But the south side goes for like 10 acres up, and it doesn't bother me at all. But I've just never really been comfortable, having been a Marine and a drummer, where you're really having to open yourself up to things and be very diligent about your observations. Something always felt wrong on the north side of our property. So that's about the best I can say about it. We saged the house shortly after the one musician singer had felt a presence. We went through that part of it. Of course, let me say this: as I was raised partially by a native Ute, and he showed me a lot in terms of what we're seeing and what we think we're seeing and how the things work. And I was able to learn a considerable amount from him as a child. So
Hope is also
I'm open
incredibly
to this.
gifted.
Yeah, I'm open to this entirely. This is the first time that I actually have photographic evidence of somebody doing something or a spirit doing something. Lots of feelings. I feel like maybe I'm an empath. I
You
know, yeah, I know when, loved ones or something's wrong from a distance. I can feel it. I will pick up the phone and I call, and that's just been kind of my story. So I might be just extremely open to what a lot of people would never even pay attention to. That's not to look down. It's just that's the way it seems to be for me. I wouldn't want to oversell that, but
yeah. I think the interesting thing, well, you didn't give me much information, which I normally don't ask a ton of information before I go in to do work like that. But what I did actually pick up on, like when I called you back afterwards, was yes, this man actually passed away in the woods, right?
right,
and
yeah.
so, what he was sharing with me was exactly what you've been picking up on for so long, and also some of the people that have been in your home. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, you can definitely feel energy, and you are super gifted in a lot of ways. You're an empath, you're wide open. And I was saying, I don't even really feel right, charging for this particular situation. There are times where I'm like, oh yeah, you need a whole house clearing. It was just one ghost. But also I feel like with your gift set, you might sense or feel things just kind of walking through or walking by in general anyways. And
right.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So I can definitely feel people's energies and their moods, and where they're at, inside when I'm around them. I've had to sort of, it's no fun. Trust me. It's no fun to know that. It stinks because, sometimes it's directed directly at you. So it's kind of a stinky thing to have in your life, but I'm more right than wrong. I can tell you that for certain.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I got a question for the two of you. So, a couple things. I want to make sure we circle back to the scratches on the truck. I don't want to kind of leave that part of the story dangling. It feels important. But before we jump into that, I agree with Val. I get such a, I can feel you as well, that you are an empath, and I think it does take that sensitivity for those that can actually feel that energy of an entity or a ghost, and then be able to see it. Because Val knows it's my deepest fear that I hope I never actually see a ghost. I'm always afraid of that. I always have been since I was little. I'm like, please don't show yourself in the mirror. Anyway, that's a side note. That's why I get therapy. But I want to say is, okay, so you were very open to this. Your wife captured it. Did your wife capture the ghost by accident, or did she also, was this something intentional that you guys felt something was happening and she was trying to capture it? That's my first question.
Well, what he was saying is, she's been doing recordings of him. She's just creating a montage of recordings.
Oh, right. And so it was accidental that she caught this. Okay.
It was, very accidental.
Ill. And so she's been doing different recordings of their encounters with one another and happened to catch this on video.
Perfect. Okay. So
this situation was an earthbound spirit, but there are other things that kind of walk this earth, also, just like lower vibrational energies and consciousness that can be quite scary. So I do understand the fear there around seeing something in your home invading your space.
I know.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So let's circle back then to, I want a couple of things, Val. I want to know specifically what your work looks like, when you are helping a little ghost move on its way. And I also want to know the thoughts that the both of you have around the idea of a physical entity able to scratch a vehicle, right? Because I've heard of these things certainly. So I'm just interested. I want to hear both of those things.
Well, let's start with the actual contact situation, right? So when you think about vibrations and you're looking at it on a scale, let's just say 0 to 10, and 10 is what someone would call heaven or fifth dimension or that God space or whatever. It's a frequency in my eyes, right? And then you have 0, which is the most densest part of existence, or you can have lower level entities that are very, very dense and the frequency is very, very low. The denser and the lower the frequency, the more, I guess it could be more matter in some way, more physical form. It does take a lot of energy to have an encounter like that. And so must have been an accumulation of, energetic, they have to consume this almost like how we would consume food to actually project in that way, in a physical way, or project themselves in a apparition. Does that make sense? I hope I'm explaining it right.
Yeah.
No, that's beautifully put. I love the way that you just said that. And I think I just am feeling like I need to add this, that, we talk often right around mediumship, that on the other side, they're a much higher vibration. In human form, we're lower, right? So we raise our vibration, they bring their vibration down, and then the mediumship can happen. So
right.
So I hear what you're saying. So when you're talking about a ghost, that energy, that low vibration, that is why we're able to see them. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And
I wouldn't mind adding. I wouldn't mind adding a piece to that. Is that knowing that I'm terminal and there's not much that can be done. I'm trying to deal with that as positively as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So one thing that came out of this sighting was a sense of kind of calm.
Yeah.
But with my own situation, but also realize that my wife is very, very stressed out about the current situation. So she's doing her best to navigate and find her way through it. So, and in my personal mind, we're both kind of in a state of stress, and some of the stories that I had been telling that night were the tougher ones from my life. I think I only got 9 minutes into the first video when this happened, but I think it's a particularly unusual situation to have, both parties sitting in a vehicle outside their house in that state. So I just would like to add that. I think we're very open to, seeing something or being clearly seeing something, but it might be attracting as well the weakness that we're feeling in our own life. So, but anyway, I'll pass it back from that.
Yeah, I think what I was sharing when I crossed the soul over, I was just trying to see, what was fueling the energy. And what you and I were talking about when I called back was just, you're so wide open in so many ways that part of you was fueling this situation without even knowing it. So a lot of empaths do this, right? They want to support and help people. They're sensitive to emotions and energy. And sometimes that leads to poor energetic boundaries. You don't even realize that you're doing it. And so it's not that you did anything wrong, but it definitely supported. I asked you, were you feeling tired after this happened? Because, there was definitely an energetic exchange between you and this being. And its ability to be able to show itself the way that it was.
Right.
And I think you had mentioned that, you slept 13 hours the next day.
Yeah, 12 or 13 easily. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. So if anyone ever has those kind of experiences, there's ways to support your energy where you're not, disempowered or drained or wide open to these kind of experiences.
Yeah, I agree. I
So
definitely agree.
I want to just mention one thing, and then I do want you to go even more deeply, Val. And I just pure curiosity on my end too of what it's like when
Sure.
you connect and helping people
Oh
to
yeah,
move on.
I forgot about that. Oh, yeah.
But before we go there, Tobe, I want to acknowledge that you're terminal, and just in feeling that in my heart for you, that you are also willing to share your story with all of us. I do deep grief and loss work as a therapist. That's like my love, and my brother passed in 2014, and I feel like I communicate with him all the time. And so I just want to acknowledge that you are sharing this deeply personal side of what you and your wife are going through. And I was also wondering, Val, I'd like you to speak to this, because I was wondering this too, as you are terminal and you're open to this, if you're closer to that other side and if that has an impact, Val, if you could speak to that as well.
Some people
Sure.
do.
Sorry about that, Valerie.
No, go ahead, Tobe. No, some people do find that they have more experiences, but Tobe, you would know best to be able, someone that is extra sensitive, has your experience shifted in a more powerful way more recently?
I think, yeah. I think the truth of it is that, as I kind of felt that and really tried to take a positive route to what the doctors were telling me, I definitely think I opened myself up a lot more. But I also feel something fascinating that's different, and that is a continuum, for lack of a better word, a continuum of soul. And it just doesn't feel final to me. Maybe I'm in denial, but it doesn't feel final at all to me. So that was really great.
And energy is infinite. It doesn't stop. Right. It doesn't end. Yeah. And so your consciousness will always be. Just as you experience this soul, consciousness just doesn't go away. So your consciousness will always exist.
Right. And I think for whatever, better or for worse, having captured this entity or this person, I feel him as a person, gave me relief.
Oh,
it gave me an extra kind of like, okay, this might be kind of interesting. I just feel that day. So it was, or that night, I should say. But for my part, it was kind of a relief to actually get that moment with the other side, or the continuum. And I guess I'm just coming up with these. The continuum thing to me feels like translating to the next life, or as you look into quantum physics and all those kinds of things, you just really can't destroy. We're always going to be here on one level or another. There's always going to be a piece of us that are, that's us innately. And I think that to me was the fascinating part, and has given way to a whole lot of other readings and considerations. But I also have a question for you, Valerie.
Sure. Wait, well, Susan, I see you antsy over here. Are you getting something? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't think, Tobe, you understand.
Normally when I'm wiggling like that, I'm like, oh, something's coming in with.
Yeah, and that's what I know. I'm feeling it all over the place. I'm feeling that I knew that this was going to be a profound discussion, and I just need to say this out loud to both of you. I feel like this episode is going to touch so many people, because I think the hope, you being terminal and seeing this ghost, because the feeling I was feeling, and I wanted to ask you this too, Val, when you talk about connecting, is when we see an apparition, are they here to share something with us? Are they here to give us a message? And what you just said about it bringing you a sense of calmness on the continuum, I almost started to just actually cry, because I feel like the hope that I'm going to cry, the hope that you are going to bring to people through your story. I can feel that somebody out there really needs to hear this from you. And I have to just say this out loud, because everyone knows I do not censor myself, that coming from someone like you, Tobin, what I mean by that is someone who has been in construction and in the Marines, for you to be for you to be sharing something like this is, I think is quite profound. I don't really have the words to express my gratitude of what this is going to do for people. I can feel it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to share, because one thing I've been doing a lot lately is helping veterans from, the Gulf War and the sandbox, the whole thing. We go fishing. I go up and I've been trying to give back as much as I possibly can in the time I have left. And it just, this is another one of those things for me that if I can give back, the truth of it is that it gave me hope.
Yeah.
And, maybe 20 years ago, it would have scared the living heck out of me, but it really didn't. I took it more of a sign of that openness with the reality of life isn't exactly what we think it is. And to see it visually like that, I would add that the next night I stayed in my truck by myself with a bag of Cheetos and a couple of Gatorades, and I got a glimpse again, but I wasn't able to clip a picture. And I don't think Valerie had done her work at that point.
No,
I think she worked on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm not doing that now, because it doesn't scare me even a little bit. Now, I might if it came into the house, and I know the cats have been a little weird, but I don't feel like that's going to be the case. It's my feeling about it, but
the big question is, did you share your Cheetos?
I ate all my Cheetos.
Let's circle back to the scratches on the truck, because I'm sure that there are listeners out there that are going to be very interested in this aspect of it. I'm going to ask you, Val, do you feel that was coming from the apparition, that they were really trying to get Tobes, or his attention, or do you feel like it could have been an animal? Like I just would love to hear from you, your feelings on that.
Personally, that it does feel connected. When I connected with this earthbound spirit, there was a lot of confusion. It felt disoriented. It felt abrupt. And a lot of times that can come when, when they're looking for help. I mean, like he's connected enough to know that he wasn't at risk in any way. But sometimes when there's confusion, I mean, you imagine yourself confused and you're like, oh, and it can feel like that in spirit too, when you're stuck here in a state of confusion. And so it does very much feel related for me, energetically, like that it was all connected.
I certainly had that same sensation when I discovered it the next morning. Yeah. I had that same. I'm just a very habit kind of guy, and I know how I close the door on my truck. That's just not something I would do. Yeah, and it could have been, but I don't think so. There's clearly 4 fingers with claws on the end of them that you could see that it drug it against the truck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Ursula's scratches, cats. It could have been anything, but for my part, she said that it wasn't there the day before. So, I can only go off of what I see visually and the evidence I see visually, but I don't necessarily feel that it was absolutely that character, that person, that soul that scratched her. I don't know. Right. It's a long shot for me, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm a realist too.
I know. That's why this is such a profound story to be hearing from somebody like you, rather than somebody like me. So,
oh, not at all. Not at all.
I sort of live in this world. So, Val, I want to know though from you, when you connect to a spirit, you felt the confusion. How do you're connecting energetically, and then what are you doing? How are you communicating? And then how do you help that apparition move on?
So everyone's gifts are very, very different. Some people are clairvoyant, where they're going to see images. Some people are clairaudient, where they'll hear. Claircognizant, it's like a sense of knowing. And then there's clairsentient, like the feeling. Clairtangent, there's clairgustance. And there's so many ways to speak this language of energy. And learning how to communicate and have a conversation using your particular gifts. people use their gifts all the time without knowing. My strongest gift is clairsentience. So energy physically touches me. So when I tap into something, it actually feels as though something is touching my body. So, of course, stepping into that gift initially was terrifying because it felt like stuff was touching me all the time. And I was like, what is this? Is this a thought? Is this a ghost? Is this an entity? Like, what is going on? And as I strengthen my gifts with clairsentience and claircognizance, the way that I communicate is, one, connecting to that energy. I can feel the connection. So I know that we're now communicating, and their claircognizance, where I'm reading the energies. So the way somebody would communicate reading energy is really through familiar feelings that we have within our everyday conversation, right? So I might walk into a room and talk to somebody, and I immediately feel that they're uncomfortable. And it's not that they're saying something, we're feeling that energy. And so the more time you put into your gifts and understanding them, you learn the language, right? So it's not so much guessing somebody's uncomfortable. You feel it and they're communicating, and you know, they're telling you, I'm uncomfortable. So that's how claircognizance works. This particular man was, midlife. He did die. It was a state of confusion, or, in the woods. He was cold. He was hungry. He did need support in crossing over. So how I do that, and normally, I'm a pretty much mind your business rescue medium. A lot of people love to hear the stories. Normally I don't communicate like with me being consciously involved. But what I did do that for this case because I wanted to share the story with Toba afterwards. But when you're doing houses where there's multiple spirits, sometimes it would just be too much to stop and talk to every consciousness that you're dealing with. But you raise the vibration of the conscious being. So this man, I raise up the vibration of the earthbound spirit. And by doing that, he then can use his own free will to decide if he is ready to cross over into this frequency and vibration. It's not like you're going up to heaven. It's actually just existing in a different frequency. So hopefully all of that makes sense in understanding how that works.
Yes,
it's beautiful.
That was beautiful. Because, and that really is all it is. When I talk about this,
yeah,
and
I agree.
It really is like when we pass from the human body, we are just passing. We're just changing form, right? And we are transitioning. And I love what you just said, because the most important thing that I want people to hear when we think about ghosts, and we think about we most certainly had one in our old home. But that it is free will. We don't have to, we can stay earthbound, right? I mean, spirits do.
And they might not be ready. They might have a message they want to pass on. They might have been killed and needed to share their story. Like, there's so many reasons.
So many reasons. And sometimes it is grief and loss, right? Where the loved ones left behind, they are so worried that they stay, right? They stay. And that's why, when we hear in hospice work, I used to be a hospice social worker, that there really is something to saying to your loved one, it is okay now. I am going to be okay. It is okay now for you to move on. And I've got chills everywhere in my body. So this is my gift. That there really is something to that of letting our loved one knows that letting our loved one know that we are going to be okay without them. Tobe, do you mind
I think on both sides, I just want to really add this very quick, and then you can ask Tobe what you were going to, but I think it's important for everyone to understand to let go on both sides. If you are holding on with a death grip to your loved one that just passed, that makes it hard also for a loved one to completely cross over to. And so it is important to take that into consideration. I have seen cases where, there's been a rough transition because, I can't let go, I'm here, I cannot let go. And it's been, it can be hard on that end too.
Yeah,
you're right.
You're right. Both sides.
That's very true. I think for my own you know, my own experience. I lost my dad. I was there when he passed. Uh, Moved on, translated, however you want to put it. And my best friend passed away, and I was there for that. And you know, when you're really saying, you know, sort of tending both sides, I had to, for myself, let go. And once I let go, peace came over me.
Yeah.
And the dreams and the feelings, all the good stuff just flowed right back into me.
Yeah.
The truth of it is that, you know, there's a very real world physical reason to be solid on both sides.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think you're going to hold them back if you don't let go. And you're not going to get the peace that you're looking for in the living world if you don't let them go. It's
heavy.
You know, I had to let go of it myself. So I mean, I don't know if I got that out right, but that's
Beautiful.
how it felt to me in those two specific situations.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. That's like such a good point.
It is a beautiful point, and that's what I meant by us giving permission to our loved one to let go. And also, I want to say something else. You're bringing something up for me, Tobin, and then I'll circle back with a question. But I had a dear friend. He had esophageal cancer, and he was terrified of dying, just terrified. And we met many, many times to talk about it because I have such. I just know. I just feel like it's a deep knowing. I feel like I've always had it. I've never had a fear of that other side. I want to ask you though, do you mind if I ask you how long you have been terminal?
I found out last August.
Okay, last August. So my question to you, if you don't mind, and obviously your depth of sharing is entirely up to you. But I'm curious that when you found out you were terminal, do you mind sharing your process with our listeners of what this has felt like for you to come to terms with your own mortality and this beautiful thing that you're doing with your wife in capturing your story? If you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, there's some fear, there's some trepidation for me, for sure. I felt it. But really, it just felt like the natural motion of my life. I did, you know, when I really came to peace with it was when I said, you know, there's so much beyond. Why do I need to live in fear? Why do I need to live in a state of, oh my gosh? I mean, you know, not to pat my own back, but as a Marine, you know, that can come any moment when you're out, and, you know, it can come at any moment. So you do get a little bit of that already ingrained in your life. And it's not fatalistic at all. It is no fear of what, you know, you may not have the knowledge of what's going to happen yet, but you build that fear out of your body. And I really dug deep into that and just kind of moved through that and came to a really solid peace. Now I am very spiritual. I do believe in a lot of everything from science to I think it's all over the map for me, but having that feeling of a higher power, having that feeling of the motion of life, I think really helps. And I think it would be good for anybody to think of it in terms of that as is, you know, some big, great abyss out in front of us, because that's just not the way it works. And I'm 100% sure of that now. So it's about the best I can put it. I mean, it's been trying, you know, certainly my wife's having some struggles with it, but for my part, I feel really calm and really at peace. So.
And do you feel that these open conversations, because I feel like this ghost has just been important in this whole process, but do you feel like the open conversations that you've had with your wife and her, you know, recording you, do you feel like that's also been helpful for her? Because we're just having this conversation about both sides being able to let go.
Yeah, I really do. She seems to be really just moving with the flow of things at this point. And yeah, I think, hearing the stories and hearing, because I've got a pretty solid memory, hearing the stories and hearing the different things that I experienced in my life has really given her some inner peace too. In that, wow, that's a full life. There's not, this is not a tragedy. This is a full life well lived. So it seems to me that her energy has changed since we've been going through this situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Well, thank you for sharing so openly, Tob. Honestly,
sure.
This whole episode is just going to be really, really beautiful. Do you have questions about what happened?
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting thing that I bumped into, and I don't understand why. I've been wearing my life on my sleeve for quite a time, so I've shared with friends the pictures and the stuff that I sent you, and some people can see it, and some people can't.
Yeah.
And then there was another person that saw it too. And I'm looking at the same picture that they are, and I don't see two myself. So how does that work? I mean, do you have an opinion on that?
I definitely have an opinion on that. So you know how we're describing frequency, and where I always will use the scale of 0 to 10 because it's very easy concept to grasp. And then you have your frequency and what you're able to experience in certain frequencies. And there's also that divine knowledge, right? So in the realm of some of this, you can only really tap into and understand what your mind is able to grasp and what frequency you're existing in. You know what I mean? And so if somebody is like hitting a frequency 4 and you, Tob, are like a frequency 7, you're going to see and experience and know and understand on a deeper level, where the 4 might not be judging your experience, but just might not have an understanding and awareness. So like the same way we talk about the clear cognizance, when I'm tapping into that energy and I know what this being is saying to me. And then when I talk to you on the phone, you're like, yeah, I feel that that's coming from the woods. I didn't really know anything about your land or where you lived. I just was tapping into the image. It's the same with divine understanding, right? If I never had any experience in this work or this existence or meditation or connection to God, or, being a vessel of this, would I be able to deeply understand what's happening? And so you only know what you know, right? I guess that's the best kind of way. And it doesn't mean that somebody's not open to being able to see those things or understand those things. I think that with time, just the curiosity and awareness of wanting to might bring in a different experience. Everything is about your consciousness and creating your reality. And so that conversation might have planted a seed for somebody to have an experience later on. And some people are able to see things and some can't. Does that,
yeah, that's kind of what my instinct was telling me, but it can be a little frustrating. I mean, I think the pictures are pretty clear. I certainly share them with the world. I have no issues with. I'm sure from a frame in the video that he's got his head turned in a different direction, right towards my left shoulder. And as he got out in front of us, he looked back at me and Ursula at the same time. But here's the interesting part. Is that she saw it visually. And she just happened to have her phone. She was watching and asking me questions about stories of my life. And she had it kind of scared her right off the bat. But I think what I feel good about in that particular situation is that me and my wife are on the same kind of wavelength, because she caught it first and she saw visually what she was seeing, and also we were able to go back through the footage and extract some of those again. So that was nice.
I want to ask you another question, because again, I feel so strongly in that this video is going to touch some people that really need some hope right now, that also may either be terminal, or they are dealing with a loved one in their life that is terminal. And I'm just, you told me, you said to us a couple of times that this ghost brought you a calmness because you felt like it was almost a confirmation that we are on a continuum. Do you mind, I don't know if you can give more language to it, but do you mind describing like this feeling that came over you, because you weren't afraid of this ghost, even if you even believing that this ghost might have scratched your truck, and you also, grabbed your Cheetos and your Gatorade, and you were like, I love
that it was like a ghost hunt the second.
and then you decide, I'm going to go on the ghost hunt. Do you feel like this idea of knowing that you're going to be passing over has not only opened you up, but has it really helped to minimize that fear? Because I'm thinking the last thing I'm going to do is get in my truck and wait for the ghost sighting. So I would just love to hear from you.
Sure,
how this
sure.
is.
I guess I would start that with, when my dad got sick with lung cancer, he pretended, I guess, to not be afraid at all. And in his last moments, he said he was afraid. And that was really tough for me to hear him say that, maybe the second to the last groupings of words that he said before he passed. And I think the thing about it is, you don't want to live in fear. Yeah. You shouldn't live in fear. But this was confirmation to me that there's no reason to live in any kind of fear.
Yeah.
It just gave me that extra sensibility about that. And when I say continuum, I feel as if life, just the road goes on. Yeah. It doesn't change anything. One energy to the next, to the next, to the next. And I don't necessarily subscribe to reincarnation or anything like that. But proven by Einstein, there's multiple universes. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's kind of anything other than, science and math in that regard, and that there's so many possibilities. And I think this is just one of many. And that's I think the piece I came to and I was working on. And then this guy shows up next to my truck and just pretty much nails it down for me. So I'm not happy to go. I'm going to miss this life, but certainly I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
I don't have any words for how much I love this. I wish you were in my office right now. I'd give you the biggest squeeze, because
I know.
I just can't. I'm just loving this so much. I don't ever want our conversation to end, because I feel like so much of the work that Val and I do is around helping people to understand who they are, that divine, like we are all divine consciousness. It's sort of like we can't not be connected, right? Because it's just an awareness of that connection, and that so many of us live in fear and taking chances in our life, and we're here for such a very short time, and we get to experience all the things. We have our 5 senses, and then we have our 6th sense. And I just love so much that you are sort of driving this point home, that there is nothing for us to be afraid of. And gosh, shine your light, people, right? This is what I constantly say. We're here to shine our light and to follow our passion and to just light this world up with love. And so I thank you so deeply for sharing that sentiment. And my other question as a follow-up, since your terminal illness, have you done things that maybe you wouldn't have done before, like share this story, for example? Have you gotten more brave in areas of your life?
Well, certainly I have. I mean, I've always been real connected to nature, and, dragonflies landing on my shoulder. I know this sounds cliche, but
no, I love it.
just the outdoorsy life. I mean, once I got done with the Marine Corps in my childhood, I had no issue. I had no reason to ever want to hurt or harm anything again in my life. I'll avoid stepping on an ant at this point in my life, but it just feels like the connection is so complete with all living and all things true, that when I do that, when I really truly feel that way, if I'm not like stressed out, or I get a little angry with the doctors sometimes, like, geez, guys, but when I'm not stressed out, I'm open up to that, and it's an immediate thing with all the world around me. People are nicer to me. I mean, let's face it. We're in Massachusetts. There's a lot of people in a big hurry, so but I just feel connected. I feel connected to everything. So that's kind of my piece, is feeling that connection, I suppose.
Feeling that connection and like truly understanding in a way that most people don't, where you project and treat people the way that you want to be treated. And it's something that we all very lackadaisically say, but it's really hard to step into. Your ability to vocalize all of that is just certainly touching.
Well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. It's, I mean, what else can you do but do the right thing? And this is my way. I got to give back in every possible way I can for every day I have left. And that's the way I roll at this point. So.
Well, I'm noticing that that we are coming to the top of the hour. I want to make sure at the end, Val, if you have anything left to say, and also, Tobe, if you've got anything left to say to listeners that I haven't asked or Valerie hasn't touched on. So I don't care who goes first. I just think it's a nice way to kind of bring closure to this incredible conversation this morning.
Tobe, why don't you lead us? If you have anything left.
Yeah, sure. I guess if I was going to say anybody that's watching, this life is almost an illusion. It's not part of the whole picture. And I literally love you. We can't be the same person we were 10 hours ago, and we can't be the same person we'll be 10 hours from now. There is only the now. And for my part, there's no fear. There should be no fear about that. This is what everybody goes through. Yeah. It's all about how you do it and how you feel about it. And if you can treat people with love and kindness and caring and feel that, you're not just doing it, you're feeling it, then life is great. There's nothing to worry about. That's about all I'd say.
And honestly, I really love you too. I think that actually it's funny because what I was going to close up with, which clearly shows your empathic ways, was about fear. Fear really does lead to a lot of us closing down or feeling like we need to protect ourselves. And whether it's seeing an apparition that feels dangerous, or having a conversation with a loved one, or stepping into a relationship, fear is probably the most, destructive vibration that we exist in here. Yep. And if we can step into trusting and knowing ourselves deeply, and really, stepping into our personal empowerment, there really is nothing to fear, whether it's a ghost, an entity, or sharing your love with another human being. And so I
don't mean to interrupt, but I have one thought. Even how you interact with that side, if you leave the fear out of the factor, they're gonna respond too. Held up spirits, held up ghosts, all those things. That's the way I feel about it. So,
I have deep compassion for all consciousness, like you were saying, right? Someone might have a fear of an earthbound spirit, but I'm like, this is a soul that needs support right now, the same as a living being or an animal, or, whatever else, my ability to be able to support people and spirit is, you guys already know, it fills me. I love my job more than anything else.
I love mine too.
You're great at it. So
thank you.
I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, folks. And I do have a doctor's appointment coming up here in about
All
20
right.
minutes. So I'm going to have to boogie,
We'll
but
pop off. Thank you.
okay. All
I'm glad
right.
to hear everything at the house.
I want to thank all of you for popping in, and I really do hope that that you got as much out of this conversation as we
definitely.
did.
And anyone watching this, share positive vibes and loving, healing vibes towards Tobe. If anyone has a story they'd like to share or process
email
with
us.
I love doing this. We love communicating with spirit, with energy, helping supporting people. So definitely reach out if you have something you kind of want to touch on. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, everyone. I love you guys. We'll see you here next. We'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. We're always.
Yeah, we will.
Right.
Bye.
Have a wonderful. Bye, guys.